Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the AR-196 A3 sitting at 1.7 battle rating in the German premium lineup. This thing is from the summer event in 2020 and it is the first reward plane and we got it on loan from Gaijin, so let's have a look at it. It is a bomber. Doesn't look like a bomber, does it? It reminds you more of the F1M2 or the B-17B, more of a fighter frame in a bomber lineup. Of course, many of these planes were scouting planes in the Second World War, but have been repurposed to fit a role in War Thunder. This thing is a bomber, and well, she can bomb. She has two 50-kilogram bombs, but that is it. You should maybe drop them early on and use it as a fighter, but it is not as good as some of its competitors in this role. But we'll have a look at that a little later. Is it a fast plane, you would ask? No, it is absolutely not a fast plane at 1.7 battle rating. The maximum speed at sea level without WEP is 295 kilometers an hour, with WEP 300. At 4,500 meters, she'll go up to 205 without WEP and 208 with WEP. And finally, at 6,500 meters, I could not reach this speed because the engine overheated and killed itself. So trying to get to 6,500 meters was a suicide, didn't work, and it also took a while to get close. But yeah, so I don't have speed for you at 6,500 meters because I couldn't reach it. The top speed in a dive is pretty decent for the red line, 542 kilometers an hour. And to rip her was impossible because you cannot reach a speed high enough to have this plane time enough to accelerate to a speed far enough beyond 542 kilometers an hour. Reaching 542 kilometers an hour in that dive is already almost too difficult. I only reached it once, and that was from 6,000 meters going down with full WEP at all times, and I just reached 542 kilometers an hour before I crashed into the sea. Now, this happens of course because there's a lot of drag on this plane because it's a hydroplane and the acceleration isn't fantastic. So yeah, it's difficult to pick up speed even in a dive. Control stiffening is not really relevant. It does have a tick at 350, but the roll rate on this plane is already so atrocious that it is, well, in a dive it gets a little bit better between 250 and 350, but after that it becomes terrible again. And between 250 and 350 I would call the roll rate maybe just bad, but above that and below that it's atrocious. Really bad rolling this plane for such a small frame. And most of its competitors like the F1M2, the Henschel 123, the B-17B, the Ju-87s, the TB1 for example, all planes that look a little bit like this, smaller frames that can be used as fighters. This thing is by far the worst rolling plane of them. You can still pull out of a dive though, the control stiffening is less bad there. But yeah, the control stiffening is not really relevant on this plane in that sense. It's just that terrible all around. The stall speed in the plane is actually quite decent with 110 kilometers an hour. Now then we come to the special point of this plane, the special element of this plane, and that is the firepower, which is excellent for a 1.7 battle rating. The plane runs with two 20mm MG FF cannons with 60 rounds per gun and one 7.92mm machine gun MG17 with 500 rounds per gun. You also have a turret, an MG15 with 7.92 millimeters with 525 rounds. So the armament is excellent, and especially the offensive forward-facing guns are magnificent for a 1.7 battle rating bomber, as this thing is classified, right? You start with a bomber spawn, so you start at 4,000 meters, more or less 38 on some maps. 4,000 on other maps, but you start at a good altitude with this plane, letting it be capable of boom and zooming. because of the drag, you can basically go into your dive with impunity, because you don't have to watch the speed, you don't really have to be mindful, the thing won't rip on you. And that is a great thing. For the ammo loads, well, the ammo loads on the 20mm are average, I would say, with 60 rounds per gun. That's what most 20s have on this battle rating. But you have 2 of them, so hey, nothing bad. Just needs a short tap often, and you'll get good damage. And the ammo on the machine gun is good. Now let's look at the performance a little bit for the plane. The acceleration in a straight line is below average, maybe close to bad even. It doesn't accelerate very good in a straight line. In a dive it's actually decent up to a point. You start to accelerate pretty decently, as I said, but then as you start to go on higher speeds, he starts to slow down in the acceleration. And because, you know, the higher speed you have, the more the drag starts to pull in and stuff like that. And yeah, it really starts to slow down, and after a while you just slowly ticking up the speed. It's just terrible at a certain point. But so the early part is decent, and from mid to later part of your dive it becomes very bad. Energy retention is bad, both in the horizontal and in the vertical. The plane does not hold speed, also because of this drag. You lose speed very quickly in the vertical. So vertical maneuvers, despite the stall speed of 110 kilometers an hour, is unadvisable to really gamble on that. And the energy retention in the vertical, yeah, really makes that a bad choice. Climb rate doesn't support it either, but because the climb rate is also bad. Pretty much all the planes I named earlier that are comparative to this in the other trees have a better climb rate than this one. Turn time is actually decent and good with flaps. The flaps only rip off at 540 kilometers an hour right before you get to your red line. So that is good. Roll rate then is absolutely atrocious. So you definitely don't want to be rolling too much in the plane. You gotta have strict boom and zooming from your 4000 meters, I would say, in a boom and zoom attacking style. You can do a lot of damage with those 20mm then. You can also intercept bombers quite well in this plane. It's also fun. Maneuverability overall, with a decent to good turn time and an atrocious roll rate, is average. And overheating in the plane is actually bad. It overheats very quickly. You just have to web for 10-15 seconds. You come into the amber, 20-25 seconds you go into the red. It is not good, the overheating in the plane. That is of course without mech, that goes for all these speeds. They are indicated airspeed without mech. With mech it might be better, but you guys can add that in the comments. Durability in the plane is good. It can take a lot of damage, and does so quite a bit of damage, and doesn't get a lot of effect in that in the flight models. It takes you home quite reliably, so the survivability in a plane is quite good. But yeah, that's one of the few good things in a thing. Durability is good. The climb rate, or sorry, the turn time is decent to good. You have the excellent guns, which are really fantastic on this battle rating. And you have the fact that you cannot really rip this plane easily. So you can fly her with impunity. And also the flap usage is easily done. You don't have to mind speeds or anything, because if you rip off the flaps you are already almost dead because you're at the red line and you're probably gonna crash the plane. So that doesn't happen very quickly, and it's a quite survivable, sturdy plane in that sense, and that's a good part, with great guns and a bomber spawn. So those are the things you've got to work with in this plane, and thus I would not call this a bomber, because those 250 kilogram bombs, you don't really want to take them down to a column to throw them on anything. Maybe you can throw them on a base if you want to make use of those bombs, and then start to boom and zoom from 4000 meters or 4500 meters if you can reach that. But I found it the most efficient that way, and actually quite good, because you can actually easily get 2-3 kills per match. Sometimes of course you get 1, or sometimes you might get 4, but on average 2 to 3 kills is easily manageable on this plane from altitude. There's always the bombers that are coming at you that you can shoot with the 20s, or the players that are coming up. You know, you often have the cloud that you can surprise people from, and as long as you keep your energy advantage, your altitude advantage, you'll be fine in the boom and zoom role. That is of course difficult, especially if people start to climb up for you, but it is a plane that can do its role in a match and can contribute very much to the result of the match, because if you can take out 2 or 3 people in this plane, and I could have made it home by the way in this match with this damage. I got hit by the airfield a few times, but I chose to try to get another plane. I thought, why not? This was my last match anyway that I was gonna fly in it. But yeah, so it's a plane you can have an effect on in the match, but not as you might expect with bombing or anything, because it just doesn't have those bomb loads, right? I just gave it a bomber designation because this used to be a scout plane, and that's it. So they designated it a bomber, but it is really more of a fighter in that. It's not fast, it doesn't have a lot of attributes that makes it fantastic, but you do get that bomber spawn, you do have those guns, and you can turn decently, and you're sturdy, so that's what you got to work with, and that is what works, because it does work actually. It does have its role, and you very rarely get a plane with 220mm at a 1.7 battle rating, which is also fun to have. Quite devastating firepower. Of course you run out of them quite quickly, because you only get, I just cannot get the lead anymore here on that dough, but we've got the S-81, we put him on fire, and as my quad mate here comes close, he crashes himself, and of course I critted him. I put that fire on, so I did get that kill, letting me end this match with 3 kills as well. So yeah, I had fun in the plane. There's plenty of downsides, but there's also some good sides, and those 20mm are definitely unique at this battle rating. Anti-Mag, Terror of the Sky, Bulletproof, 11,000 Silver Lions, and first place in the team. I'll see you in the conclusion. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. Now the AR-196 A-3, what to do with this plane? Is it worth your time to get it? I don't know, I'm mixed about this plane. There's a lot of planes that have the same kind of setup, right? Bomber spawn, the F1M2 for the Japanese, the Henschel 123 for the Chinese and the Germans, the B-17B for the Swedish, even the Ju-87s in the German line itself at a 1.7 battle rating, the TBD Devastator, that are all better than this plane, except for the firepower. Except for the firepower, because many of those planes also have decent to good turn times and a pretty sturdy frame. But this one doesn't outshine those planes. Except the guns. The guns make this plane special, the 220mm cannons. And that is the only reason why you should get it. You get a bomber spawning, so 4,000 meter fighter-like plane with not the greatest maneuverability, but with 220mm, which will evaporate things. And if you sparingly use those 20s, you can shoot 3 to 4 enemy planes whilst having cannon armament. That is the upside of this plane. It's definitely unique with the 220s. I can't say it's not fun. I did have fun in it, but it's definitely not the best version of such a plane in the game right now. But it is the only one with this kind of armament, and this armament is definitely excellent and superior to any of the other planes. And that's what you gotta go for it if you want this plane. You gotta want those 20s and the bomber spawn, and then you will have a lot of fun in this plane. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, Make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.